You're listening to the New Outlook podcast. I'm Lisa Hendrickson, your hostess, and today I have Steve Yates from Team ITS joining me to talk about the New Outlook, January 6th, and other things you need to know. Before I get started, this podcast is intended for MSPs, IT providers, computer techs, and end users if you are tech savvy. I add that in there. This is a broadcast as a podcast and video on my YouTube channel. Notes in the comments. Welcome, Steve. Tell us about yourself a bit, and then we will get into the New Outlook.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me in.
Sure.
Um, Basically at ITS, our job is to worry about our clients' technology so they don't have to. We do everything from networks to phones to web hosting and basically everything a small medium business would need for IT support.
So you're an
Yeah,
MSP?
we are an MSP. Yeah, yeah.
Do you do any break fix?
We do some. I mean, that's where we started. I mean,
Right.
we've been around since 1990, so it's been quite a long time. So we've evolved over the years as things like internet have been invented.
No, that's a long-term MSP. Yeah, you were MSP cool before it was cool.
Yeah, yep. So we got into that like gosh, 25 years ago or so, and yeah, good 20 years ago, and yeah, just kind of rolled forward and yeah, gonna do a lot of things for a lot of people and just try to help everybody out. Your listeners can find us at our teamits.com is our website.
Nice.
So,
Well, if anybody's looking for an MSP, Steve is available. I'm Lisa Hendrickson. I own Call That Girl. I market myself as an Outlook expert, 365 consultant, and my new goal for 2025 is to work on my Microsoft MVP for New Outlook. So I've been doing a lot of research for the past year, and the reason why I asked Steve to join is because he tends to post things in a technical group I'm in with him, and it's always good nuggets of info that I'm not catching. So I'm always like, oh, Steve, I just always follow him and try to catch his post. But well, there's a lot to know about New Outlook, and it is
there is.
just there's so much that Steve is just a resource, and I have plenty other resources as well that I look at. So Steve, why don't you tell us, tell everybody about January 6th, what you know, and then I'll explain some more about that.
Right. So Microsoft has a essentially an evolution, I guess, of Outlook. They're going to call it New Outlook because why not? I don't
Yeah.
know. They're naming schemes. Who knows what they name things? But yeah, so New Outlook is basically a different program. I mean, it says Outlook, but it's a web-based program, kind of runs on the desktop like New Teams does.
Mhm.
I think this might be where they're going to head with everything eventually, but they haven't said that. But on January 6th, which is in 3 days, they're going to be starting to roll this out for everybody. So if you haven't told them not to, they're going to turn it on for all of your employees and customers and everything. So it's going to be a big change for people who don't see it coming.
Right. I think it's only going to be going to the business and premium subscribers.
Right, right, and it's replacing Windows Mail for Windows
Yeah.
11, so it'll be coming on everything. But yeah, the enterprise plans I think get it. I saw something just today that they get it in like a year and a half or something.
Right.
So
Well, so people that have products or some of the action packs or um old old versions of Outlook, those probably aren't affected. Home users should not be affected. The family account. So what I've seen is Outlook Classic is not even in the downloads for Outlook 2024. And
right.
yesterday I installed Office and it wasn't in the Office install either. You had to go and download it. We'll talk about that later. But they are really pushing hard to start having people, replace it. So it's up to us as techs to either tell the clients how to switch back to Classic, or for some people, like some MSPs, Steve, are going to have a decision to make whether they want to push the new Outlook out or not. And their clients are going to be
Well,
just angry, but
Yeah, it's going to get pushed out. The question is, yeah,
I
do
know.
they want to turn it off, right?
I've got a lot of things to say about the MSPs with but anyway, so let's start with who is affected, which we just said. In my opinion, everybody should be on alert because I've seen even home users, I've seen so many problems that people should just start knowing after January 6th, not even on that date, forever going on. Just be prepared. And there's a lot of things you need to know for the preparation of it. So anyway, what I've told my clients is I've sent out a couple newsletters. I think a lot of people are confused, even though I've really tried to send out a good message. People don't understand technology sometimes. So they've been calling me asking if they're affected, and I've done little spot checks on a lot of folks just to let them know. I don't manage clients though. I just have break fix clients, hourly people who pay me. So have you sent out any messages to your people? What are you doing?
But mostly we're just trying to turn it off.
From the
I
global
mean,
admin side?
yeah, you can do it a few different ways.
Mm.
There's some settings in 365. There's 3 different registry settings
Yeah.
that have controlled about whether people are allowed to or are going to be forced to change to it. So yeah, it's a lot of moving parts and things
Mm.
change like every month or so. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, Microsoft is really trying to push it out. And I mean, from our perspective, I mean, most of our clients, they just want to get work done and don't want to mess with all this, everything being new and different and where's this button or that button or whatever. So up until it gets more mature and gets to the point of being feature compatible with Outlook, which I think we'll talk about later, yeah, we're just turning it
Right.
off at this point, or at least trying to.
Right. Well, so because Steve's an MSP, from what I've read, because he is a global admin for all of his tenants, which is his clients, he can go in and do the back end to turn it off from so it doesn't enable moving ahead and he can control that.
Right.
There's also some things that an end user can do for themselves on the computer, but I don't trust doing that. And I'm not going to tell people how to do that registry fix because I personally don't even like doing registry fixes for Outlook, and I haven't had to in a very long time. So to me, if you do a hack and it breaks something else, then you got to call Microsoft to fix it sometimes, and I'm just like, I'm not going to do that. So I'd rather teach people
Right.
how to just do it themselves the right way. Because I don't need 500 people doing registry hacks that day when it might
Right.
not even matter. Um, so should clients be asked to use it or not? That's going to be a quick question. I think, Steve, you'll agree that it's up to the MSP or the IT provider to decide, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, like as you alluded to, it depends on which Microsoft plan they have. But they're they haven't said everyone's going to have it on day one, but they said that
Right.
I believe their phrasing was they were going to start rolling it out
Mm.
um, next week. So yeah, it'll roll out unless it's being turned off is basically the
Right.
point. And whether that happens Monday or sometime this spring, it may just
Mhm.
depend on luck of the draw.
I think it is luck of the draw. And I think that I've mentioned this last summer in another webinar that, in IT, well, let's put it this way. When new Outlook is rolled out, there's going to be very little to configure with Outlook anymore and no settings to change. It is a skin of OWA, in my opinion. So when people are like,
Basically.
hey, where's my categories? If they're not there yet, it's not a feature they've enabled yet. And so there's nothing to fix except just tell people it's not a feature yet. And that's what our help desk folks, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, is there's things that you can't control. New Outlook is what it is. And since I've been doing the research, I've noticed in the past year, a lot of new things are being added. But is it ever going to be like classic? Never. And it's
Yeah,
never going to go ahead.
they have a long feature comparison document that they've been maintaining, and it changes like weekly basically. But
Yes.
yeah, there's maybe 100 things on the list without counting them, and
Mm.
some of them are only in old Outlook, and some of them are only in new Outlook, and some of them are
Wow.
like, yeah, we're thinking about this, but have no plans for it, and so it's very like you'd think if they were going to force this out on everybody, they would say, "Oh, it's done." But no, they're very much like, "We want to give you the opportunity to be able to test it, and the opportunity is we're going to
Yeah.
turn it on for you." So it's like,
Yeah, Steve, it really is bad for folks who come from the old Franklin Covey days,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Like those people are wiped out. Franklin Covey's not going to work in this. I've already trained a group of people and they all were like, my tasks, my colors, my flags, I mean, it all's there, but it's not the same. So
right.
it's organizing in your head. It has to change. And that is end user training for some people. For some people, you just got to say, sorry, I can't do it. But the one bonus for an MSP to say we're going with the new Outlook is you're going to have less help desk calls for Outlook. Just simple. It's going to be an update broke it. You have to reconnect the account. That's it. That's it. There's nothing to fix.
Yeah,
There's nothing you could configure. No more PSTs, OSTs. No more using the scan PST repair tool. No more 17 accounts from different things that don't work with third-party apps anymore. Everything has to be connected through 365 now. There is no plugins. There's no development work. Done. So a lot of people are going to be looking for some new things to develop because Outlook won't have it, I don't think, unless you work on a connector.
yeah. I mean, we
Yeah.
have clients that use like specific add-ins for their like CRM
Yep.
software or other third-party software, so they can document every email that's sent out. They
Yep.
link it into the client record, things like that, and those plugins kind of probably aren't going to exist anymore. I mean,
Yep.
there wasn't a whole lot of notice for any of this. It's
No.
only I think it's been less than a year before it really got any common knowledge.
Well,
So I
you can tell you one
I
company that's not ready. Zoho.
right.
Zoho is not ready. And that's a huge CRM. That's a
Yeah,
huge product. And like you were saying, your clients all have these custom things. Well, the new Outlook has to be connected through the 365 connector. And then it even works differently in Outlook than it did. So you have to play around with those apps and show your clients how to use them. I already had my biggest issue this week with Zoho and no documentation on Zoho site. So I
yeah.
might have
Well,
to write it for them.
they still have 2 days. It's okay.
There's going to be some people that don't know about this. Surprise. Yeah. Well, luckily there are some features being added quickly that I think they learned that they had to get on the development of is the PSTs. So on January 6th, one thing I've noticed with my new Outlook is I can add my PSTs now, but I can't do anything with them. You can only just read them. And that's not good for people that are using, let's say, Old Pop or IMAP, and they're using the categories in it and their calendars and contacts. So that's where a lot of the custom work we've done for our clients all these years is going to go away when they open new Outlook. It ain't going to be there. But I did read that in
Right,
March.
and tangent.
What's that?
I was going to say tangentially to that. I mean, the storage for the new Outlook, as far as I know, is all on Microsoft's end. It all stored up in the cloud, so like you don't even have
Yeah.
your
Well,
local email
it's
storage
or
anymore.
a different email host, like
Yeah.
a Gmail or AOL, Yahoo, whatever.
Right, right.
But
If
those,
they're big enough to leave the mail there. Yeah, yeah.
the sad news is you can't take that email from the PST that you can open into Outlook and move it to the server. But it says here, I looked it up, and in March, you should have full PST usage.
Yeah.
So you should be able to do replies from it and move the mail and all that stuff. But I mean, that's just a crossing fingers thing, in my opinion, because I don't know. Wait until I see it.
Find out in March. Yeah.
Yeah, well, to anybody that's understanding this so far, I'm going to be still migrating PSTs to Exchange as much as I can with the clients. Every client I helped in the past 2 months, I've given them warnings. It's coming. Start moving it up, especially if you're in business. You've got the server space. Why not? And how many expanded mailboxes I've been buying? And then second
Hmm.
storage mailboxes. Some people have 200 gigs, so I'm buying them second mailboxes
Oh my.
to move mail to for $4. Why not? Right? Mhm. Okay, so now,
Yeah.
Steve, let's talk about pre-launch preparation. Should you inform your clients about New Outlook or not? What do you think? You got 3 days.
Right. I mean, I think if you haven't turned it off, they're gonna get it. So yeah, I think everybody needs to be communicating in some fashion or at least turning it off.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, for 6 months, people have been seeing there's a toggle button in Outlook
Hmm.
to switch to new Outlook. Um, so some people may have seen that. If they've clicked it, they've run into a bunch of the issues for the
Yeah.
features that weren't yet available. Um, but yeah, I mean, probably better to communicate than just let people get surprised on Monday morning.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of folks in these, groups that we're in that they might do what I do, don't manage all their clients' tenants. And then so a newsletter is helpful. And I mean, I mean, I found that my two messages were still confusing, even though I tried to do my best to tell folks, but I didn't get overwhelmed with messages back. So that's the good news. Final note is what he said, use the toggle, but having your vendor, if you have a vendor, that does the management of it, you might want to check with them and see if they've already done it. Something too, as a just a little tip. So launch day and beyond. Um, so the one thing I've noticed is that Office, for a lot of the ones I've seen, do not include Outlook Classic. So when you're setting up a new Outlook or a new computer, it might be missing. So there is a page where you can go download Outlook Classic, and it works pretty good. 2024 purchase does not have it either, which is kind of crazy. And if you see it, lucky you, but I've seen it a couple times now, not there. I've also noticed that just out of the blue after a Windows update, Outlook Classic is gone for some people. Have called me and it's totally off the computer. Profile's gone, everything. So on January 6th, these are just things that could happen. It might not be a good upgrade for the computer and it still might be gone. Their classic, all their profiles and all their info. It's crazy. I've seen I've had to recover some data. And then one tip I learned is let's see, hold on. I wrote profiles disappearing and then restoring email access. So if you have email on a pop account, let's just say you're an old school IT maybe provider and it jumps to new Outlook, those PST files, make sure you back them up prior to January 6th, because if they had it and it all disappears and it corrupts it, you got to get a restore. So that's important here.
Always better to have too many backups than not enough.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you have to make a manual one, and if you're listening to this after the 6th and you still have time, just check with your big pop clients. And then I wrote down verifying account settings to ensure smooth transitions. Most people have many multiple Microsoft accounts now, home, business, personal, some with the same emails, iCloud with the same emails, their business email. Let's try to make a little mapping of all of that stuff because it can be confusing when you go to add it to the new Outlook. Um, Microsoft loves itself. So when you have an iCloud account with an email that matches a Microsoft account, you can't set it up. Microsoft will default and set theirs up first. That's what happened with Zoho. So
There,
then you got to figure out how to disconnect them.
there's a few more bugaboos now because new Outlook will not allow you to connect a Microsoft 365 account that does not have the right to run Outlook. It's like if you
Yeah.
have a basic license
Yep.
or
Had that
an
happen yesterday.
Exchange Plan 1 and you migrate, it'll disappear. You got to use webmail separately. So
Caught that yesterday.
yeah,
It said
yeah,
this account does not have a Windows license available, something like that. That was the
yeah.
first one I've seen of that. So then I got Classic going. I
Yep.
wanted anyway, but I was like, let's just see. But anyway, just prepare for anything to happen. And so if you are backing up your client's email manually or through like a cloud service, like of one of the online ones, just, do your best to check all that beforehand. Now, Steve, do you want to handle preparing the help desk section?
Oh, I don't know.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, well, mostly we've been trying to avoid it.
Right.
I mean, we had started taking a look at it. I mean, I wrote a newsletter article, to our clients back in July, I think it was, and I think by September the article was out of date because they changed so much stuff, like the added features and removed some limitations. I mean, it's great they're making progress, but man, you think they'd have it finished before they
Oh
send
no.
it out to the world. Um, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is what most of your common sense. You're talking about, training your staff, get them some experience with new Outlook. Maybe you can set up a test PC and set it up there. It should be, part of Windows now.
Right.
Like I said, so it should be easy to get. Um, um, yeah, and just kind of work through some of the common issues um, about what happens if they have these email accounts that can't access anymore. You got to use OWA or how to access the old email, things like that. So,
Yeah.
yep, all those things are good.
I'm going to be having on Monday morning. I already have other appointments booked that day, but I just don't know. I mean, do you remember going through the Malwarebytes crash of like 2013 where
Yeah,
Malware's Malwarebytes updated and crashed like computers? So that day I had to change my voicemail because people were calling with panic, right? I couldn't handle all the calls. So I decided that for the first time in 11 years or 12 years, I'm going to prepare to change my voicemail that morning if I'm just noticing because I have break fix clients. So I don't might not have heard from a client in 5 years, so they might be calling. I'm just for me to prepare because I am my own help desk. So I might change my voicemail that day just to give a couple simple instructions and say, I mean, you're in my queue. It's just me. And I got 6,500 clients, so it might be crazy that day. And I'm also going to put an out of office on if I need to, just stating there's, how to do it, and then I'll get to you as soon as I can. That's what I'm doing because it could be a nothing day. Might be normal. God, it's just like Y2K, nothing happened. But
right.
then it might be like the worst day ever, and I've got 600 calls in my queue. And because a lot of people have been talking to other tech, Steve, and they're all preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, right? And they're all like, we're scared. And I said, well, we should be a little scared because we don't know if Microsoft's going to launch it to every single business client and premium subscriber. I mean, or just a trickle to test it. Nobody knows, right?
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
been pretty vague on that. So yeah, better to plan for some extra
Yeah.
support time next week and then leave it,
Yeah.
I suppose.
I'm just going to do the voicemail and in out of office. Okay, well, some custom
Gotta do next week.
configuration changes that are coming is the impact, of course, of clients using PSTs, third-party apps, unique configurations. So I'm not sure if your MSP supports using a lot of hybrid accounts, but like Google Workspace with Microsoft, a lot of people have Google Workspace with Microsoft business apps. So an example of that going horribly wrong is a lot of people don't know that they're using IMAP for their Google Workspace. And that might have this computer only and this computer only for calendars and contacts. A lot of people don't know how that works. So their clients are used to it. Nothing breaks, they don't know. But if they get pushed over to new Outlook, those contacts are going to be gone. The calendar is going to be gone because that's on the other classic Outlook only. And their email will be there, but they're going to call and go, where's my stuff? So one thing that you might want to do is at some point anyway, is move your clients to the Google Workspace connector for Outlook, import their contacts and calendar, then it's on the server, and then new Outlook will work fine. That's what I would do for those folks because I have a lot of those clients. And a lot of people in Google still use Office. It's the Office, they like it better. CRM systems will be affected, and then just a lot of old hosted Exchange servers that people still have, maybe some on-prem servers. Um, they
Yeah,
got old Exchange.
that's a note too. Yeah, the new Outlook does not work with on-prem Exchange servers.
No.
That's on the
Yeah.
list.
So I think that's going to be important, especially if you're trying to set it up and it won't connect because I've got a bunch of people on Old App River hosted Exchange from the old days. So they got to go to a new office. That's all stuff I think that'll get wiggled out in the future. Do you want to take on the future proofing of 24 and beyond?
Oh, so I mean, we kind of touched on it a bit. I mean, they have a document for the the feature list I mentioned earlier. So you should be able to find that online. But there's a very long set of tables for each like subcategories and everything.
Right.
It's like maybe 100 different things that they're adding on. So I mean, it's great that they're adding on, and I can see some of it. Like they have a Copilot section where they have some features that are in new Outlook that aren't in old Outlook. Um, so I can see, like why they're trying to do that. And then I think the point is if you have, a common base, then they don't have to worry about supporting like 15 old
Right.
versions of Outlook that connect to 365 or their systems. They can all do it one
Oh
way.
yeah.
So from their standpoint, I mean, I get it, but they're kind of forcing everybody into the same box is the problem. Um, yeah, so I believe they've said the Outlook Classic will be supported at least through 2029. Um, so yeah,
So to say.
what that
I don't
means, I
trust
don't
that.
know. We'll see if Outlook, Office 2027 or whatever it's called comes out.
Oh my God.
Um,
2027. Can't even think of
uh,
it.
um,
Oh
So
my
yeah,
God.
hopefully over time they're going to add all these features in. But yeah, right now it's kind of a work in progress is the important part. So
You know
um,
what? My heart just stopped last February when you posted that. I literally was like, they're pushing this. There was an extend date. Before it was kind of in the like just little tidbits I'd read on Reddit. And finally, when you posted that, I was like, okay, it's happening now. And that's when I took this real seriously. I'd already been taking calls from people about the new Outlook, and I was like, this is like in the wild for me. I can't even see how they're getting it. Um, then after that, I started focusing on the research for it. And then it was just what, a month ago that it was like January 6th. I was like, oh,
yeah,
they're
they did
pushing
not
this.
give much notice. The original document I saw said, hey, enterprise plans will at least get a year. Well,
Yeah.
technically they did that because they said, we're not going to change enterprise yet, but everybody else is January. So it's like that's not a year. That's like a month and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not a lot of notice for this. It was just like we want everyone to change. So
Yeah. It was, I know. And then there's some people that are like, well, don't worry, you can still roll back. But I'm like, guess what? There's going to be a day before 2029 that Microsoft says, you know what? We're going to make you go anyway because of their acceleration of the. So let me just tell you, I heard a rumor through a guy that works at Microsoft that said, and this was about last summer, he was like, they're really getting fast on this Teams conversion. And once that's done, they're going to hit new Outlook hard. And that's what is happening. They're hitting it hard because they want people off it because of security and the authenticators and this and that and the other thing. And I just know that they can say 2029, but that doesn't mean they have to, they can do what they want. They could say, we're going
it,
to be done in a year and get everybody off it. And then that's what it is. I
basically,
think
and I
that,
mean,
well, I mean, can you imagine how low their support calls are going to go down if they don't have to support Classic? I mean, that thing gets a lot of calls. I have a company running it. That's all I do. So we could talk about my retirement plan
yeah.
at the end of this, because I had to build one. Um, anyway, I still think that I've been using it so much, I'm kind of liking it a little bit, but I still don't love it because I'm still mentally, I'm 40, I'm 56 years old. I've been using Outlook Classic, some version of it for 20 some years. I know it so well, and it's just adapting to the new one, which I could do, but I don't like all of it.
Change for the sake of change is just
Yeah.
confusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's mostly why we've tried to turn it off, because people want to send an email and not learn a new program on Monday morning. So,
Well, we might hear I'm
yeah,
going to Gmail.
right,
I'm going to Gmail. Well, you know what? The reason why people don't like Gmail in the browser is because their labels don't work like folders like they're used to.
right.
And older people like me can't mentally figure that out. Like it's not as easy. I'm not saying anything wrong with being old, but the folders are just easier to work with because it's in the classic Outlook. So go move into Gmail is not an answer if you got people that love those folders.
Yeah.
So that's not
If you're
future
used to
proofing.
something,
What that?
yeah. Once they're used to something, it's hard to
Yeah.
move large groups of people because there's some people, adapt very quickly, and some people like it's just. I mean, I know some of our clients are like, oh, it'll be hard if anything
Well,
changes. So, um,
they love doing what they do.
yeah,
They got
yeah.
their unique features of classic. And then I wanted to ask you, are you having any clients starting to use Copilot?
We have not had too much interest in it yet. No.
Yeah.
Um, so it seems like right now everything's very very early on, and I can see some of like I've seen examples of how you can take a Word document and create a PowerPoint, things like that. So I can totally see how it could be useful. I think we'll get there. I just don't know that we're there quite yet.
You know, I tested it and I didn't like it for working with customer reply emails. It seemed too like an AI generator and I didn't like it. My clients like people. I think they like working with people. So I read online a few texts that are like, all I do is use Copilot for all of my emails now. I'm like, to me, it sounds like a robot. And to me, my clients like a person. That's why they're paying a consultant. They're
That's
not
the
paying a
thing.
robot.
Yeah, right now you can kind of tell,
Yes.
right? Like if it's 80% of the way there, it's not all the way there. So, and
Well,
the
ChatGPT
the
wrote
last
our
few
outline.
percent are the hard part, right?
Well, I wrote out the
So,
outline for
yeah,
this and then I put it into ChatGPT and it was perfect. But it's
yeah,
good for marketing stuff and doing these things. But I would never have sent that email out to my clients,
right.
that message. No. So anything else you want to add to that future proofing and beyond? Anything else?
I I mean, I guess we'll see. They're just kind of vague about what's going to happen, but it seems pretty clear. I mean, they've like you said, they've already started trying to remove Outlook from the Office software, so it's unclear what'll happen right now. When you get Office 2027, what will it have, if anything? And
Right.
is this going to be your only option? And then try to figure out other things like, I mean, if you have a 365 account in email, you can get third-party backups and things like that. But with this, you know, how do you do that? How can you export your mail? What happens?
No, no.
It's just
Well, what are you talking
kind
about
of all vague right
27?
now. Hmm?
Is that Office 2027? Is that like the next big version coming out?
Well, just because it's usually been every 3 years, so
Gotcha.
yeah, so it should be.
Okay.
I'm personally a little bit surprised they came out with Office 2024. So it would not surprise me at all if they don't have many more desktop versions of Office, and just say, hey, you need to subscribe,
Um,
and that's our option. Um,
so I kind of have a feeling, Steve, that in the next after 2029, maybe Windows 11 will turn into a subscription model for every person. MSPs will have their own way of managing that. Home users will pay $4.99 a month to Windows, and then they'll be in a virtual experience. Everything just
yes,
sets up.
that's
Everything's there
also
backed
quite
up.
possible.
I know that's coming because I just can feel it with seeing all this advanced stuff. These are just apps now. They're not desktop applications. They're just an app to the internet, like on your phone. That's what New Outlook is, a skin kind of, and it's just poof, you're there, just like OWA. So,
And the
ooh,
good part of that is you would be able to get to it from anywhere in theory.
yeah,
The bad, and maybe just have a cheap terminal on your that you use for a computer.
Yeah,
The bad part is you have no control over it, and you need
no.
an internet account, and you need to pay someone, and et cetera, et cetera. So,
Well, you could have a local for $10 a month.
right, right. It
Let you
depends
do
on
it.
the
You
plan.
pay
Sure.
them anyway. A non-Windows account. Oh. Well, if we got time, I wanted to answer a few questions from one of the members in our group together. They were like, kind of like, can someone specifically address these? So I have it up here if you don't mind. Um, so they asked, the new Outlook is now essentially a skin web-based application. I'm gonna say yes on that, which is because when you click
Pretty
on it, it goes to the cloud.
pretty close. That's my understanding. Is it all kind of runs like OWA does, except they've made it slightly different.
Right. It's the same thing. You just go to an internet, but it's in the computer. The new Outlook no longer replicates your hosted information, messages, contacts to an OST file. That is correct. There is no OST files. I've also noticed that some people have been talking about some email language like .emls and things. From what I've seen, anything that's on the local computer is not anything you can export or import or touch. Have you seen that yet, Steve?
That's my understanding. Yeah, I mean they may get to it. Like you alluded to earlier, I think they said they're gonna add in the ability to connect to PST files.
No, hold on.
Um,
OST.
okay,
So in Outlook Classic, when you have an Exchange or IMAP, it makes an OST file
right.
in the back. PST is a local storage. So I'm going to go quickly look here because I've been doing this Outlook testing for so long. I have a in the app user local account is Microsoft and then Outlook. And there is where you'll have your new Outlook migration. And that is actually all it has is two text files. I don't think there's anything local
No,
on New Outlook. It's just cloud. And so if someone is going to correct me, I'd love it. But that's what I think is happening, unless it's in some random other file. But I've been telling people it's not on the computer as far as I know.
no. Yeah, that's my understanding too. The OST was basically just the local cache of usually I think by default it was the last year
Yeah.
of online data or the
So
last
however
few
much
months
you
or whatever
have
it was set to.
downloaded.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna
but
tell people like you just if it's signed in New Outlook, it's syncing with the cloud. So if you have a mess up and you delete a bunch of folders, it should be on the cloud web, and then you have to re-sign in maybe. I mean, this is how little troubleshooting I've done with New Outlook. Set up an account. I have trouble signing in. After that, it's in the cloud. There's nothing else to do.
right.
So there's no ST files there. The next question is that means without internet access, you have no access to such data. I have tested it and the online did not work last time I tested it. Like if I took it off the internet, well, it didn't look, but they're changing that, or they have.
Yeah, I think they're working on an offline mode, and there's a whole list
Mhm.
of features that don't work in it. So,
I think so too. But you can download a certain
yeah,
amount to the storage,
yeah,
and that goes up to 180 days. I have looked at that.
yeah.
The new Outlook will be forced upon you without notice starting in a couple of weeks. Possibly, possibly not. Again, that depends on if
Yeah.
you're an MSP and you disable it, or you turn it off by the registry, or you just have to wait because you're in a queue of when Microsoft launches it. But as far as I know, you can toggle it off to go back to Classic, right?
Yes, although I think I've seen what you alluded to earlier is you have to kind of set up all your email accounts again.
Yes.
So it just assumes, hey, all this old stuff, you toggled the new one to test it out, so we're just going to get rid of all the old stuff for you since you don't need that anymore.
Yeah. And then a lot of my clients, it took a whole hour to do it because they had 8 email accounts.
Right. Look up
I was
all the
like, I don't know what to
passwords
tell
and
you.
authentications and yep,
Yeah.
yep, all that.
So then the next question is, will setting this key actually work at least until Microsoft changes to the feed that? You know what? Honestly, I don't trust anything. So you can all toggle it off and disable it via the admin on Monday, and guess what? Oops, it still might
Well,
not work.
And just to reinforce that, there are now three registry keys to change because they replaced one with a second one, and then they added the third
Oh,
one recently to control the migration that's happening this month because the first two apparently they're just going to ignore now.
oh
So
God.
yeah, you have to keep up with it of all the settings to change.
Oh, geez. Okay, well, I'm not doing that. So for others, take his advice. Try to keep up. Will setting this key prevent end users from manually opting to change the new Outlook? Ooh, I think if you're the global admin, they can't if it's working, right?
So sorry, the question was, will it prevent them from
So about the
updating?
keys, if you go and set it so they can't do it, will the key prevent them from manually opting to change it? Will that toggle go away pretty much? I don't think
There,
so.
there are, yeah, I don't have them in front of me, but one of the keys was whether to hide or show that toggle.
Oh,
Um, so you can hide the toggle. The change this month was even though you've hit it, you didn't tell us not to upgrade you, so we're going to upgrade you. So there's another setting to not do the upgrade this month. Um, but none of that, it's all in the user key in the registry.
okay,
Since our audience is technical, it's all in the user key in the registry, so people can go in and delete those keys or change them or
right.
whatnot. You can't really prevent that. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's ways to work around if someone set those keys, but yeah, the intention of depending on how they're set, I suppose there's a few
Okay.
different settings of whether you want to force it on or force it off or let them make the change. So um,
I don't want to even get into that stuff, but I will let you know that the fella in that post, I did try to do the settings, which was to log into config.office and under customization, select policy management, create, select create to create a new cloud policy, search for admin control. That I don't see any of that in mine, and I'm an admin on my account, so I gave up and closed the window. I was like, I don't see it. I'm not gonna do it. And I'm not going to try because I did try the next option and it gave me like 200 policies. And I was like, I don't do those either. So I backed out. I don't play with buttons I don't know. And if I can't get exact instructions,
yeah, Microsoft is really fond of making like 8 ways to do everything.
I, yeah, I don't do much of that. So,
And then they all conflict with each other.
yeah, I don't even like messing with anything like that. His next question was failing the above, can we revert users to the old look, at least in the short term? Yes. So if you guys don't decide to do anything with your global tenants and policy changes, and you could just tell the clients you can toggle it back and hope for the best, then that toggle should stay off. But guess what? Oh, Steve, my other screen just went out. There, it came back. The toggle will come back, and when next time they do like a big update, it'll be back on again. I've seen that happen. You can toggle it off and do an update with Windows, and poof, everything's gone again. So that's just something you're gonna have to deal with. And you could just tell your clients that this is not something that you can control. It's Windows. And if you manage Windows updates, I still don't think there's any rhyme or reason with those dates, even though you guys control them, right? You don't know what it's going to actually do. I mean,
Yeah, it gets challenging. I mean, they're all cumulative now, so yeah, you
yeah,
can't really skip specific updates
no,
anymore. You eventually have to get caught up, and so yeah, that's a whole part of our job is trying to make sure that we don't break any of our client systems with the updates. So,
well,
um, but
24H2
yeah,
broke Google Workspace in a hard way. And yeah, and that broke my video card. That's why my screen just went out. Or broke something. It messed up something I've had to fix, and I'm not a video card person, so I think that's it anyway.
yeah.
Okay, final question. If reverted in this manner, can we expect data, rules, folders, loss of that to be dealt with? Well, here's the good news is Microsoft Exchange, everything's in the Exchange account or should be. Um, IMAP will only have email and POP won't exist. POP is in the PST, so yes, things might be lost if the PSTs, you can't repair them and they don't work. Be preventative, make a backup, and start migrating those POP people to Exchange. That's a good project for you in 2024 or 25. If you have a lot of people on outdated IMAP and POP, you might want to get them into Exchange. And because they're going to have to at some point. And those PSTs in the new Outlook, I'm not trusting that 100%. There's too many
Good.
configuration things people want. They want colors, categories, all those fields that they can use. That ain't going to probably work in the new Outlook so well.
Yeah, our newsletter article, well, it's going to go out Monday, I guess. I'm just writing it, is about, yeah, moving to 365 from,
Yeah.
we still have some clients with the legacy email. I mean, the benefit, it's free. The downside is, you know, it's difficult to deal with multiple devices, and it's, once you get even a phone, or and then you get to like other things like an iPad or another
Yeah.
computer,
Oh,
or
yeah.
a home computer, or a work computer, whatever, you got a bunch of places dealing with email. And so,
Right.
yeah, something like 365 can make sense even for home users. Um, but then, yeah, it gets, yeah, yeah, it gets difficult. And so, yeah, we'll see. I mean, the 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 end result here is, I think it's fairly obvious that in 2, 3, 4 years, the old Outlook is not going to exist anymore. They're going to want that to go away, and
Yeah.
we're all just going to have to adapt sooner or later. It's just a matter of whether we're all testing the program for them, or they get the features finished by the time the rest of us need to use it.
Oh, yeah. That kind of was where I started to think about my after 60 years of age work I want to do, which is going to be, oops, phone here, which is going to be tech consulting. I'm building my own new business called tech consulting, which is my way of making an MSP on a small version because it's going to be so crazy with the cloud stuff going on that I'm going to be helping people answering questions more than doing real technical work anymore, I think. Like just maybe, but I mean, everybody's seeming to be using OneDrive now. And so you just set up a new computer and that's it. But then I'm starting to learn some advanced things that are really fun. That's tech consulting. So I think after all this is done, I had to think of a second career and it's going to be that training, one-on-one
Great.
stuff. Yeah. But it's kind of gave me a cry. I was like, I've been doing this so long. Oh, it's like the end of my Outlook expert days will be lowering down here. But well,
Maybe.
the last thing, I'm
And
sorry.
so it may be, but that's the important thing in this industry, is you have to adapt and move on. I mean, like I
I
said at the
do.
beginning, we've been doing this will be 35 years now,
Yeah.
so which is crazy. Um, but yeah, if you don't or can't adapt to the technology changing, and internet change, yeah, it's good. It's a tough career.
It is. And I think
Always
that a lot of the
adapting.
people in our group, they're not just 100% MSP. They have break fix clients, the hourly project people, stuff like that. And we all have to adapt because, I mean, I used to do so many migrations, Steve. I hardly do one a month now. It's like they just disappeared. Well, I looked on Fiverr. These guys are doing migrations for $50 for nothing. So, I mean, that's the competition. They're
Yeah,
doing
well,
it. There's so many of these guys on Fiverr doing migration work now.
you might have all your email when you're done.
I'm just looking at the future. Well, the last question this person said was, last but not least, how do we effectively express this to our clients? We kind of covered that in the beginning. But I did want to take a minute to answer all these questions so people could understand. I will post this video and podcast on the internet and in the groups that we're in and such, just so people can listen and get a little bit of information before Monday. Me and Steve we both run our own businesses. We're both gonna be in the same boat as you, both doing different things. So, you got anything else to say there, Steve?
No, no, I mean, I think just that it's a moving target, and
Yeah.
um, try to keep up with it. Find the Microsoft Docs, um, yeah, for the feature list, and they have a roadmap document. Um, but yeah, just always keep an ear out, and I think New Alec's going to evolve quite a lot over the next year or two, and we'll still have to
Yeah.
keep up with it.
I'm reading the message center in the admin since you posted that now. That's been kind of my little check-in. there's a lot about Teams, and I hardly support Teams anymore. So I'm just looking at Outlook stuff for the most part. But, I don't do a lot of that advanced stuff. None of it. But there's a Reddit forum out there, just to close on that note, that let me tell you, that's where I got the comparison chart that Microsoft has. This is real people doing comparison, and it is awesome. It is the best Reddit thread I've ever read. It is somebody that went through 100 and some problems, and then people updated it down below. And they update it with real time. That's fixed now. I was like, wow, that was gold. But keep up with that stuff, and everybody keeps up with what they need. So, for MSPs, email is just one of the one of the services they support of all of them, so it's not their core.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is still weird because, 20 years ago it was this neat thing to have, and now it's like a mission critical, this is the business critical thing.
I
And
know.
to your earlier point, like, well, if it's that important, why not move it to a modern system and get off some
Yeah.
of the POP, IMAP, whatever accounts that are lingering out there.
It's time. Make some good decisions with your clients and start getting them over. Either way, I have to do something. I have to. All right, Steve. Well, if you got any closing notes there, I'm gonna close the show. That was a
Okay.
good show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a fun
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah. You're the first guest I've had. I just started this podcast a while ago with intention of doing one every week, but I didn't find enough information every week to put out. I might here in the future, but I just said I'm just gonna do it when I have enough info to share and just randomly do it. I'm not looking at having a huge audience, just enough to share info. That's it.
Okay.
Well, that's it, folks. I will see you in the next show, and there'll be comments and notes in the bottom. You can go to my website if you want to hire me for any help. Callthatgirl.biz. There's a pop-up at the bottom. You can get in touch. My email is lisa@callthatgirl.biz, and my phone number is 612-865-4475. I'm available to all MSPs, IT people, and end users if you need help. Thanks, folks. See you next show.